Once upon a time, there were 6 blind men describing an elephant. The first feels its side and proclaims, "An elephant is like a wall." The second gropes the tusks. And he said, no, elephant is like a spear." The third feels the trunk and says, "No, it's like a snake." The fourth feels the leg and insists, "It's like a tree." And the fifth feels the ear and pronounces it like a fan. And the sixth grasps the tail and says, "No, it's like a rope." This is our story. This is our perception of the divine, and this is our perception of ourselves. We each have a little piece of the picture, but we don't quite see or grasp the whole thing. Our central principle that we teach here at Centers for Spiritual Living is that there is only one thing. We call it oneness. This one thing is in and through all things. And it is the all-knowing, the all-loving, the all-being. It is all life. And this thing is what I call God. Other people call the universe or the cosmos, whatever your name for it, the quantum field. But our principle is that there is only one. And yet, this oneness calls us together in a state of diversity to understand and experience the multiplicity, the multifacetedness of the divine. And I think that there's a common misconception that whenever we talk about oneness, we actually mean sameness, which is not true. And when we talk about unity, that means we're talking about uniformity. Well, that's not true either. Unity is not uniformity, and oneness is not sameness. Ernest Holmes said, "If our human relations are to mean the most to us, we must sense there is hidden within, around, and through each of us a divine presence manifesting itself in infinite variations, the same impulse, the same love, the same life, but never quite alike in any two persons." I perceive it like a tapestry. It's like we're woven together like a beautiful tapestry. And a tapestry is made by having vertical lines and then weaving a horizontal line in and through it, and then moving up and moving that back and forth, up and down, and then you squish the string down until as you complete the piece, you can't see the individual strings. You can't see them, but you just see the beauty of the entirety of it. Now, in spiritually speaking, basically we're part of one spiritual organism, one big energy organism, a tapestry, experiencing and expressing itself, containing both the seen and the unseen. It's an intricate illusion of varying vibrations. The lower are easier to see in form, and the higher are unseen. And it's very possible to actually unravel a physical tapestry, but it's just as equally impossible to unravel the divine. All energy is commingled like drops of water in the ocean. You just can't determine where one drop ends and the other one begins. And there really is no true separation of individualized expressions of energy. So it's all an illusion, but it's an illusion that we feel and know as our reality. And I think for me, the most important thing is that not only are we all interconnected, but each person is an integral part of the tapestry of life. And because each person is an integral part of the tapestry, I really need you to be on your game. I'm saying that because we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're in the middle of political strife, we're in the middle of social unrest, we're in the middle of fires and hurricanes, and wow, I'm sure there's a whole bunch more going on that I don't even know about. But each person is valuable and needed for us to move forward collectively for greater good for ourselves personally and for humanity. So if you aren't doing self-care, I want you to start doing some self-care. I need you on your game. I need you to bump up your spiritual practice. Whatever you've been doing for your spiritual practice, double it if you can in any way, shape, or form, because you are so essential to this planet and what's going on right now. And what you're doing with your vibration right now is having an impact on everybody. And while so many people are in crisis and so many people are in need right now, the world needs you to be on your game. And I think people don't quite understand, what does it mean to be interconnected to all of life? What does that really mean? What does that look like? It's kind of hard to grasp when I feel so separate from people. How do I, especially now, we can't even connect in person. We gotta connect via a computer screen or some other type of screen. And I was reading this article by this man named David Korten, Korten. He's the author of a book called Change the Story, Change the Future, A Living Economy for a Living Earth. And the article I found in Yes Magazine, and he says, not only are we an integral part of the cosmos, we know, for example, that at every level, the cosmos has an amazing capacity to self-organize towards greater complexity and potential. And he used the example of the Earth's biosphere. So the Earth's biosphere is exquisitely complex. It's resilient, and it is a continuously evolving layer of Earth's life. It demonstrates on a grand scale the creative potentials of the distributed intelligence of the many trillions of individual choice-making living organisms that are self-organizing to optimize the capture, organization, and sharing of Earth's energy, water, and nutrients to bring all of Earth life. Acting in concert, all these individual living organisms continuously regenerate Earth's soils, rivers, aquifers, fisheries, forests, and grasslands while maintaining the Earth's climatic balance and composition of the Earth's atmosphere to serve the needs of the Earth's widely varied life forms, of which you and I are a participating contributor in. And in that, you can see that the combined collaboration of individual contributors is more powerful than the individuals on their own. So what does that mean for us? Why am I telling you this? As we understand our power together as a collective, we can create systems of change that benefit the whole. If things are not working right now, we can create change so that they are working. We are the answer. Our cosmology, which is Centers for Spiritual Living, our idea of how the cosmos works. We recognize that the life is a fundamentally cooperative enterprise. The energy, the essence of life is fundamentally cooperative. And it's interesting because if you look at the indigenous people in the world, the wisdom keepers, they talk about the Creator's original instructions to humankind. And their original instructions to humankind in their stories talk about how our job is to get along with one another and with nature. That's our job. And the brain scientists have told us that the human brain evolved to reward cooperation, service, and compassion, suggesting that the creative process of evolution has programmed those original instructions into our own brain's DNA. Cooperation, service, and compassion, those three things. And yet, I'm noticing that there's some extreme individualism going on, greed and violence. And to me, these things are indications of physical, developmental, structural, and systemic failure on our own parts. But with that said, I just have to ask, what if we're entering a new era for humanity? What if we came here at this time, at this place, to be the dreamers and the creators of a new tomorrow? What if we signed up for this? What if we are a part of participating in realizing what's not working in order to create what is working? I always think about, I did this one year, I do Sister Spirit Retreat, and one year we decided to focus on the divine feminine. And the divine feminine there's the divine masculine, which is kind of like the structure and the order, right? And then you got the divine feminine. And so we were learning about the divine feminine. And the divine feminine, at first I was like, I don't like this. It's like chaos, it's messy, it's, like, I don't know if I want to focus on the divine feminine. But I came to realize that the energy of the combination of the divine masculine and the divine feminine means that there has to be destruction before there's the emergence of the new creation. So just like when you're birthing a baby, it's tight and uncomfortable and sometimes painful and bloody and awkward, and then the baby that's born, that comes out, is the most beautiful, precious, sacred thing that you could ever see. And I just believe that we're in the midst of this kind of painful push that is causing us to step forward into a new idea of possibility for humanity. All the faith traditions of all time talk about this golden rule, that you do to others what you would have them do to you. And it's kind of like the right hand has to be in partnership with the left hand. We need to realize that anytime I'm harming another, I'm harming myself. And so it's really essential that we wake up during this time and not go to sleep about what's going on, but at the same time also know that we need to take care of ourselves in the midst of chaos and challenge and death and destruction and grief and change. David Corton talked about the integral spirit, is what he calls it. The integral spirit cosmology, he says, postulates that we humans participate in and contribute to the divine journey. We can apply our distinctive capacities for collective consciousness and choice, either to advance creation's evolutionary thrust forward toward an ever more creative possibility, or we can disrupt it. So together, our individual choices determine our collective fate, and they shape the course of the journey far beyond our time. So it is up to us to decide where we want to be headed. And it takes us collectively working together to make a movement forward in a direction that we would love. It's kind of like, I think about being in relationships. Now, I had relationships before I have my current relationship, and I am totally in love with my wife. I will be with her as long as we are living possibly together. But I didn't get to that relationship by going through a bunch of great relationships. I got to that relationship by going through a bunch of crap first. And it's because of that stuff that I went through that it changed me, and it awakened me to the possibility of who I can be in relationship, which allowed me to step into that potentiality and be the kind of person I wanted to be in relationship, which attracted that kind of person to me. Now, we're doing that at a much bigger level. We're like, this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. But it's not working because we're destined to fail. It's not working because it's thrusting us in a movement towards a place where we can stand in the embodiment of what is possible, of what is working. It's really interesting. You know, if you interlink personal computers together, they have way more power than a single supercomputer. So if we connect together and we move forward together, this is why community is so important. And you don't have to physically be here for us to be in community. We're in community right now. But our collective consciousness can move things forward. That's why it's essential that we all pray. That's why it's essential that we all do self-care. That's why it's essential that we have compassion for each other. But I want you to ask yourself at this time, who am I in this thing called life? Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And I don't want you to ask that to be, demoralized or upset, like, who am I? What is my purpose? I mean, more like looking within. And a lot of people, you've been on the spiritual journey for a while. Maybe you asked that question, you found the answer, you've been moving forward. Well, it might be time to reevaluate, to look within again, because so much change has happened. Who are you now? What is your purpose now? It's really important to understand how I can impact the whole as part of the oneness that we are, how important I am, that I'm a necessary part of what's going on, and also so is everybody else. It's really key. And I think it's really interesting to look at studying the human body. This is fascinating to me. But David Corton used this as an example of what he called distributed intelligence, right? So there's a bunch of individualized things contributing to the well-beingness of the whole, right? And he calls it the power of distributed intelligence. So my body, which hosts my personal consciousness, my own individualized expression, is but one of the trillions of organisms that together form the Earth's biosphere. And my body is in turn comprised of tens of trillions of individual living cells. And each living cell is its own decision-making entity in its own right, with the ability to manage and maintain its own health and integrity in changing and often stressful conditions. Simultaneously, each cell faithfully discharges its responsibility to serve the demanding needs of my entire body, on which its own health and integrity and mine depend. So together, those cells maintain the body's health and integrity even under the conditions of extreme stress and deprivation, to create a capacity for extraordinary physical grace and intellectual acuity far beyond the capability of one individual cell. And the most beautiful thing about our bodies, I think, is that resources are shared based on need, not on greed. Our own bodies represent how we can be in the world. Our own cells know how to distribute things in a way that support the benefit of the whole. And I'm talking about this because I want to talk about diversity and equity. And diversity makes us stronger. Brené Brown says, only when diverse perspectives are included, respected, and valued can we start to get a full picture of the world. Now imagine again the blind men and the elephant. all of them were talking about the same thing, but they each had a different perspective. And if you put them together, you get a bigger idea, a bigger picture, a more valuable picture of what's going on. So oneness is not sameness. And I wanted to talk about this because there's this thing that happens in spiritual communities, especially ones like our community that's committed to diversity and inclusion. And a lot of people grew up with this saying. And the saying is meant to be beneficial, but instead it's harmful. So the saying that a lot of people say is, I don't see color. And basically, that means to people of color is that you don't see them. And I've noticed a lot of spiritual people doing this. And so I just wanted to let you know that not seeing color is like not seeing people that you love and appreciate. And everybody wants to be seen and appreciated for their own uniqueness. So I'd like to encourage you to shift the way you're speaking if that is one of your phrases that you're saying. Because in order for us to be inclusive, we need to use inclusive languaging, and we need to step into the diversity that we are by seeing the beauty and the richness of each individual person who's at the table. The interesting thing is that some differences make a difference to certain people, and pretending that they don't exist denies us of what makes us the distinct creative representation of the Holy Spirit, of God, of Spirit, of the universe that we are. So unity is oneness. Unity is not sameness. And unless we really understand the differences between us, we really cannot understand oneness. We just keep drifting towards people like ourselves. And if the blind man were like, oh, I'm just going to hang out with the people who, are the fan people, which is the elephant ear. I'm just going to be like that. Well, that's how life is. It's all the fan, right? You never get the beauty and the richness of all the other perspectives. And if we go into this being of sameness, then we're just a pale imitation of oneness. Actually, inclusion is the effect of the embodiment of oneness. Reverend Rafe Ellis said that to me one day, and I just thought it was so powerful. Inclusion is the effect of the embodiment of oneness. Once I have embodied the oneness that Spirit is, I automatically am inclusive. I automatically draw people in. Muhammad taught, wherever you turn, there is the face of Allah. See, we must recognize and see the face of God everywhere we go. And this is a challenge sometimes, especially if we're stuck in our own political belief systems, that just because somebody is doing something different than you or has another point of view from you does not mean they're not the face of God. It means they are the face of God. Everybody around us is the face of God. Can you go around in your neighborhood and see the face of God wherever you go? Can you watch the TV and see the face of God in everything? That's a big challenge. And I want to encourage you to take that on. And I'm going to go and shift this into the idea of equity and how important that is in our systems and ways of being. So just imagine a garden of various vegetation. There's fruits, there's vegetables, there's flowers, foliage, trees. And all this vegetation really needs a cohesive environment, a conductive environment to flourish. So for instance, they need a suitable pH. They need a healthy level of variation, sound nutrients. And all plants need sun and shade and nutrient, soil, water, care. But different plants require different mixtures of these elements to thrive. So some need shade while others need more sun. Some need moist soil and others thrive in dry soil. See, nature shows us the diversified forms and expressions of the one common life. Science admits the diversity and seeks to recognize the one great principle, the life, that lies within them all. And this diversity lies in our own human experience. So the sameness, again, is rooted at the source of who we are, for all things are of God. So that is the same for all people. We're all made up of the infinite nature of God. But behaviors towards each other is really important. While one subset of inclusive behaviors will work for one person, another may not positively respond to another set. So people, although we're the same biologically speaking, we have different needs, life experiences, and circumstances. So treating people the same actually dishonors those differences. But treating people equitably, meaning that we meet them where they are, and we demonstrate our appreciation and value the unique flower that they are, that shows us that we care about who they are. Our very differences may serve as the catalyst or the conduit through which authentic relationships are formed. And we may find that our differences enhance our connection. So it's not to say that we don't have a lot of commonalities between us, and the commonalities, of course, they always deepen what we have. But I have to say, I went, camping with my brother a week ago. I talked about camping with my brother and my wife, and they're both really smart people. But they're both smart people in different ways. And I really enjoyed having this, discourse between them and have somebody come up with an idea that I thought was brilliant. And I didn't feel the need for me to come up with the idea. I felt the joy and the appreciation of being able to hang out with people who have really different ways of thinking than I do. And if we could just foster that way of being with each other, enjoying and appreciating the different ideas. I want to challenge you to become a place of benefit. I want you to take on the idea that I'm a place where I am of benefit to the world. I mean, you can always ask yourself, do you want to be a benefit to the world, or do you want to be a detriment to the world? Do you want to be a benefit? Do you want to be a detriment? I don't know. Personally, I want to leave this world. I want to leave this planet better than I found it. I feel like that's really an important piece to all of our genetic makeup, is that we are a part of evolution. And because we're a part of evolution, and God is ever evolving itself into the highest vision of itself, we're a part of that highest vision that is evolving itself. And so we're contributors to that evolutionary process. No matter who you are or where you're at or what state or country that you're in, you're a contributor. And if you want to be a benefit to others, you have to start loving yourself. You have to start seeing yourself as a place where creation is showing up to be you uniquely. And it's really interesting because we have this whole, it's almost a paradox. We have this whole paradox, especially when we're talking about spirituality and God and the universe. It's like, well, we say, oh, we are infinite, and then here we are in a body. The body is finite. So are we infinite or are we finite? So there's this kind of paradox, and it's the yes and we're both. David Corton said, the separation or differentiation of consciousness is essential to creation's incredible capacity for creative innovation. Yet we can see in our human experience how the illusion of separation can lead us to relate to one another and to nature in deeply destructive ways. Buddhism teaches that this illusion of separation is the cause of all of humanity's self-inflicted suffering. And in order to become fully functioning individuals and societies, we must achieve a maturity of self-awareness that allows us to hold in mind the reality of oneness and at the same time honor the illusion of separation by accepting responsibility for our individual actions. If we accept that we are conscious, intelligent agents in a conscious, intelligent, self-organizing cosmos, it becomes evident that our future is in our own hands, and the well-being of all of Earth's children depends on our acceptance of adult responsibility for our individual and collective choices and the consequences. Free will and the illusion of separation are both essential for our human potential to contribute to the creativity, adaptability, and resiliency of a living Earth, and thereby to the whole of creation. All of creation is sacred. And we are part of this unified expression. We're interconnected. Our fates are inextricably intertwined. And as participants and contributors to the ongoing process of creation, we each bear a sacred responsibility. Our lives take on profound meaning and purpose in relationship and service to the sacred whole. So I wonder, what are you doing to contribute to the sacred whole? And are you asking the question, what else is possible? How can it get any better than this? How can I be a place of contribution? So I have 4 important things that I'd like you to do. The first thing, which I said before, and I'm going to keep saying it, ramp up your self-care and your spiritual practice. Do at least one self-care thing for yourself a day. We need you to be on your game. We need you to start taking care of yourself. And we need you to really bump up that spiritual practice because times are tense. They're intense right now. The second thing I want you to do is to ask yourself, who am I in this thing called life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? I want to encourage you to take a class. We designed our classes so you could do self-inquiry, so you could be supported by a community of people who are interested in you thriving. Because when you thrive, we all thrive. It's like, if I am so interested in your thriving, I can't even tell you, because it has an effect on all of us. Just like my thriving, if I'm not thriving, it has an effect on you. We're all interconnected, so I am invested in my own thriving, and I'm invested in your thriving. And I think we need to do that with each other. We need to invest in each other's thrivingness. So I encourage you to ask those questions and take a class to discover some answers. And I want you to pray for us. If you haven't been praying, you have a mouth, you got some lips, you have some creative words. You don't have to do it in any way, shape, or form, in any way that you feel like it has to be done. Just start. Start praying. Pray for us. Pray for me. Pray for Kathy Ann. Pray for the ministers and the board and the staff at the center. We need your support. We need your prayers. Pray for the practitioners. Pray for this community. As a matter of fact, pray for the rain, for all the fires. Pray for the states that are in the path of the hurricanes. Pray for our country. Pray for our world. Know that we are thriving and connected, and that something is birthing through us right now. Participate in it. And the fourth thing to do is to start dreaming. Start imagining what else is possible. Start asking, what if this does work? I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was telling me about how in her job, all of her coworkers and there's doctors she was working with that were like, well, this isn't going to work. That's not going to work. And she's like, well, what if it does? Why don't we just try it? What if it does work? Because if we don't try something new, well, we're just at the same place where we were at, which is fine. It might not work, but what if it does? So start imagining what else is possible and start making a contribution to the larger picture. Start dreaming, start visioning, start laying a foundation of what you'd like this city, this country, this world, your own life to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. If you haven't done it recently, it's time to do it. Start dreaming and start asking what else is possible. Because when we do this together, it affirms our human nature as spiritual beings and that we have an epic calling to advance the sacred purpose of creating a world that works for everyone. And I'm here, and I'm invested in this vision, and I'm here to do it with you. And so join me. Let's pray. There is one life, and this life is God's life. This life is perfect, and this life is my life now. This life is the evolutionary process, the impulse to move forward. And so I recognize and know that in the challenge and the difficulties, that there is emerging through me, through us, collectively, some new possibility. And so I acknowledge and appreciate my human experience of what is going on. I acknowledge my emotions. I acknowledge the sadness and the grief. And I also acknowledge that the destruction and the challenge always leads to new life. And so I welcome in the new life. I welcome in this new way of being. I welcome in a transformative experience to who I am. I step forward into this world of possibility, knowing that this world is my world, that this world is a flourishing world, that this world is a world where we collectively cause miracles, because the infinite miracle worker is working in and through each and every one of us, and I am wide open to be the receiver, to be the transmitter, to be the deliverer in all forms of light and life and love and peace on this planet right here and right now. And whether it's through a song or a video or a dance or through just holding my heart and loving myself, that I know it's sacred and valuable and valued and essential and a part of this life right now. And so I honor myself and I honor each and every person who's out there. Each person who's listening is lifted and shifted and gifted because of what is going on right now. That something has transformed us, that we are collectively together in this network, in this tapestry in life, that we now get to see the whole picture and understand that there is a greater emergence that's happening through us right here and now. And for that, I am grateful. I'm filled with gratitude. I am overflowing with love and appreciation. I know and claim that it just seeps through my being, my bones, my body, from the inside out and the outside in. It is so good. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Thank you, Universe. Thank you, Cosmo. Thank you, Self, Higher Self. I'm grateful to be here, and I am honored to be a part of it. And so it is. Thank you.